All right, so hi everyone, welcome to today's fireside chat. So today we have with us Anne Mui from UNHCR. Uh, Basically today what we are doing is, we have one other person coming in. So I'm going to just admit the person. So today what we have is really a fireside chat to raise awareness and understand a little bit better about the situation in Afghanistan and to help people that are facing basically a humanitarian crisis. So I just going to start off with a little personal story of how I actually start to realize how bad the situation was. Because, in Singapore, my whole life revolves around the struggle, like, oh, COVID, shut down. Then I can't teach because I'm a badminton coach, right? So I can't teach. And then suddenly I can teach again. Then 2 weeks later, I can't teach again. So that's my struggle. It was only until like the news where I saw basically the news of the two men falling off the airplane, that it really struck a chord. Like, wow, I thought my life was bad. There they are, someone else's life is way worse. And when I searched like the news and understand a little bit deeper, turns out one of the men that fell, unfortunately, was a national soccer player. And being a former national athlete myself, right, I started to realize, wow, even nobody is spared from the humanitarian crisis in Afghanistan. So then, YouTube and Google would do their things. Once you start to research or read news of this, then all the ads will start to pop up, right? So one of the ads that I saw was from UNHCR asking for help and support. And that is when I figured, maybe I can actually do my part and try to help the people that really need help. So then that's when I started to read a little bit deeper of the news, of the crisis, watch videos. And then that's when I wrote an email to Anne, who has generously shared with us her time today to really take us on a deep dive to understand the situation at hand. So without further ado, let us welcome Anne to take it away.
Thank you so much, Gerald. Thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to speak to you and your fantastic network of Mensa Singapore members. Very nice to meet you. So my name is Anne, and I am the Partnerships Manager for UNHCR, the UN Refugee Agency. And joining me on this call is my colleague Malik. I don't think he has his video on, but maybe he'll come on later, that's fine. Yeah, so thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to be here. I see Renee Ferreira, she's walking outside. Hi. Sorry, you suddenly popped up big. Very nice to meet you all. So for today's presentation, in the next 20 to 25 minutes or so, I'm going to be talking a little bit about the global displacement crisis. I'll also touch upon what UNHCR is doing to help those affected. And I'll also be highlighting the Afghanistan situation a fair bit, because I think quite a number of you have seen plenty of news reports about it in the past 2 weeks. So I just wanted to maybe just highlight some of the key interventions that we have there right now. Okay, so just let me stop my video because that helps with the connection, and then I'm going to share my screen now. Okay, do you share my screen, Gerald? Sorry, do you see my screen?
Yep, I see your screen.
Okay, just hang on. I'm looking for that icon here. Okay, great. So let's get started. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me after the call. After the presentation. Okay, let's go. Great. So UNHCR, what does this acronym stand for? It stands for the United Nations High Commissioner for Refugees. So our objective is to save lives, protect rights, and build a better future for refugees, internally displaced persons, as well as stateless people. So some of you might be wondering, what exactly are refugees, internally displaced persons, and stateless people? So I'll touch upon that in the next slide. And I just wanted to share with you that in this picture, you will see our big boss, our High Commissioner, Filippo Grande, this gentleman here. He is here with Rohingya refugee children at a mental health program at a refugee camp in Bangladesh. Okay, now, so this slide will be a slide on definitions. So what exactly are refugees? So a refugee is someone who has been forced to flee his or her country due to war, violence, or persecution. So a refugee has been forced to leave his or her home, and he or she has to cross borders, change countries in order to reach safety. Okay, and what are internally displaced persons? These internally displaced people are essentially the same in the sense that they were forced to flee due to war, violence, or persecution. But unlike refugees, they did not have to cross borders to reach safety. So essentially, they are internal refugees. That means that they are able to find safety in a different city, province, or district. And then we also have a stateless person. This is a person who is not considered as a national by any state under the operation of its law. Essentially, this means that this person does not have a nationality. And because this person does not have a nationality, he or she does not have access to public health care, public education, and a lot of other basic human rights that nationals would have access to. Sorry, people with a nationality would have access to. So in this slide, I just wanted to share a few key figures related to the displacement crisis. So at the end of 2019, there were over 79.5 million forcibly displaced people worldwide. So that's roughly the population of Germany. And can I just show you this little graph here on the left? You will see that at the end of 1990, there were over 40 million forcibly displaced people worldwide. And in a span of just 20 years, the number has doubled to 80 million. So these numbers just indicate, how big of an emergency the global displacement crisis is. So on this slide, you will see a few more key figures related to the crisis. So I mentioned earlier that 79.5 million people worldwide are displaced. That's roughly the population of Germany. That's also 1% of the world's population. And I just wanted to share that majority of displaced people are actually in countries affected by acute food insecurity and malnutrition. So usually with these refugees, they flee their homes, and then because they don't really have much resources, they have to go by foot to the neighboring countries. And unfortunately, these neighboring countries, they are facing a lot of issues of their own, like I mentioned earlier, food insecurity and malnutrition. So this is where UNHCR comes in. We help the government to be able to develop long-term solution for refugees, because these governments, they don't have enough resources and capacity to handle such large amounts of refugees coming into their country. And then I just wanted to share as well that majority of refugees, 73% of refugees are hosted in neighboring countries. So the top hosting countries are Turkey, Colombia, Pakistan, Uganda, and Germany. And majority of refugees, over 70% of refugees come from just 5 countries: Syria, Venezuela, Afghanistan, South Sudan, and Myanmar. Okay. So how does UNHCR help those that are affected by the displacement crisis? So at this stage, I would like to share that refugees usually leave everything behind to make the dangerous journey to safety. When I mean leave everything behind, I mean they leave behind their families, they leave behind their belongings, they leave behind their savings, they leave behind their jobs. So really, they are left with nothing. And that is why it is so important for us to rush in life-saving assistance, including shelter, food, water, and medical care, because they need this in order to survive. So you will see here in this picture, here a Rohingya mother. Her name is Laila. So here she is with her children. So Laila and her family left their home in Myanmar and made their way to Bangladesh by foot. Because they were traveling by foot, they couldn't really bring much with them. So when they got to Bangladesh, they pretty much had nothing with them. So fortunately, they were provided with all the essentials for day-to-day survival, thanks to a kit of emergency items provided by UNHCR and our partners. So inside this kit, they receive cooking pots and utensils so that they can cook and feed themselves. They also receive blankets so that they can keep themselves warm at night. They also receive tarpaulin sheets. These are the sheets that you see here. So they use these sheets to make shelter for themselves. And they're also provided solar lanterns as well, so that they can see at night and feel safe at night. So how else does UNHCR help? So apart from providing critical life-saving assistance, like I mentioned earlier, we also focus on safeguarding refugee rights by ensuring safety, documentation, and access to education and skills. So more often than not, what refugees want is to be self-reliant. And so we do whatever we can to help them get there. So one of the most effective ways people can rebuild their lives with dignity and in peace is through the opportunity to work and earn a living. So for example, here in this picture, you will see a young refugee from Venezuela in Ecuador. She's making a food delivery using an electric bike that is provided by UNHCR. So with this simple electric bike, they're able to find jobs as food delivery riders, and they're able to uh, make some money and pay for things for themselves. And then here, I just wanted to play you this quick video, which shows one of our education programs in Africa. I hope the video works fine. If not, we might just skip it.
I want to see my future and to know that in our new world, how our new system of world, now if you don't study, it's as if nothing, especially as a girl. My journey was very difficult. If we inside we run or we hide ourselves in trees, I didn't even understand how I could be a refugee. Where I was in Burundi, there was a laboratory, there were libraries, but here, still now, we don't have even libraries. I want to be a scientist. You must believe in yourself because everything is possible.
I hope you enjoyed that video. This is just one of the education programs that we have. It's amazing how these refugees can remain so hopeful and be so resilient even in very, very difficult times. Okay, sorry, back to how UNHCR helps. So ultimately, refugees need a safe place to call home where they can build a better future. So we help families and individuals return home to their country of origin when it is safe to do so, or we enable them to settle and make a positive contribution in a new community, in a new country, in the event that they cannot return home, right? So here, this picture shows a Syrian refugee, Mohammed. This is this guy here. So here he is hanging out with his new friends at a primary school in Gloucester in the UK. So the school supports 7 refugee families, including 12 children. And this is an example of how UNHCR works with local government authorities to help refugees settle into their new communities, into their new countries. So a little bit more information on UNHCR. So in terms of our workforce, we employ over 17,000 personnel in 135 countries. Just to share as well that 90% of these personnel are actually on the ground working directly with the refugees and the host communities themselves. So I and Malik, we are part of the 10% that is not on the ground working directly with the beneficiaries. And our job as part of the 10%, is to mobilize resources, more specifically, raise awareness and funds in support of all these interventions that we have on the ground. Because we all know that all these interventions, all these relief items, they don't come for free, they don't come from the sky. We do need money to purchase them, we do need money to be able to implement them. So then that brings me, okay, so that brings me to my next point. How are we funded? So not many people know this, but we are funded almost entirely by voluntary contributions. So only 1% of our annual budget is covered by a subsidy from the main UN general budget. And then another 3% comes from other UN organizations and intergovernmental organizations. So majority of our funding, more specifically 96% of our funding, comes from the private sector, comes from the government. I want to mention again that these are voluntary contributions, not mandatory contributions from governments, as well as the European Union. So when we talk about private sector, we talk about corporates, we talk about foundations, and also individuals like you. Just to share as well that UNHCR is a partnership-focused agency. This means that we work very closely with governments, with non-governmental organizations, with community-based organizations, with the refugees, with the communities that host the refugees, as well as the private sector. We all work together to develop solutions for refugees. So this here is a quick snapshot of some of the non-private sector partners that we have. So you will see here some NGO partners that we have, and also some of our UN agencies. So we work very closely with these agencies to implement solutions for refugees. So these NGOs that you see here, they all have their own programs helping refugees, and they also implement programs that are funded by UNHCR. So really, they are some of our very key partners on the ground when it comes to providing aid and activities to protect refugees. We also work very closely with the private sector. And just to share that two of our biggest partners globally include IKEA and Uniqlo. In fact, IKEA is our biggest partner globally, and Uniqlo is our biggest partner in Asia. So we work with these two partners through a multifaceted partnership, many different components to this partnership. So apart from donating cash to UNHCR in support of our programs on the ground, they also donate items to UNHCR. So for Uniqlo, they donate clothes, and for IKEA, they donate things like mattresses and mosquito nets. And in certain countries, they also hire refugees as well. And here, I just wanted to play a quick video of our partnership with Uniqlo.
Nu m-am năuz, dar mata eu sabe de intimamente eu și n-a dat la Da che dalle si cazzo data che
Okay, so that's just an example of how we work with one of our corporate partners. So in this slide, you will see some of the partners that we have globally. You will find some of these brands, these logos familiar. Okay. Okay. Now on to not so happy things. Want to talk about the Afghanistan situation. So some of you might be aware of this, some of you may not really know so much about it, but Afghanistan has suffered more than 40 years of conflict, natural disasters, chronic poverty, as well as food insecurity. So due to its geographical location, as well as many years of environmental degradation, the country is very prone to natural disasters. So natural disasters including floods, drought, and earthquakes as well. So due to all these issues that I mentioned earlier, conflict, natural disasters, chronic poverty, and food insecurity, people have been fleeing Afghanistan for 40 years. Okay, they have been trying to make their way to other countries where they can feel safe. And those that have not been able to make their way across borders, they are displaced internally within Afghanistan. So in this 40 years, more than 2.6 million Afghans have left Afghanistan, and they are being refugees in other countries. 90% of them are being hosted in neighboring countries like Pakistan and Iran. And just to share as well that 3.5 million people are displaced internally inside Afghanistan. And just this year alone, over 500,000 people have been newly displaced. This is largely due to the recent political developments in the country. So in the next couple of months, in the next couple of years, we are definitely going to see a lot more displacements to come, to come with the increased instability. And I just wanted to share as well that unfortunately 80% of the displaced since May this year have been women and children. So on top of the natural disasters, on top of this political instability in the country, on top of all these violence that's happening, they also have to deal with one more problem, that is COVID-19. Less than 4% of the entire population is fully vaccinated against COVID-19. So with UNHCR, we have been on the ground in Afghanistan for over 40 years. And despite the increasing violence and instability in the country, we are committed to stay and deliver, because there are so many displaced people around in the country and also many refugees as well. We need to be there. We need to be there to provide as much support as possible. And just to share as well that we remain operational in nearly 2/3 of all districts and are able to access all provinces. So unfortunately, our supplies are running low. As I mentioned earlier, this year alone, over 500,000 people have been displaced internally. 500,000 people being displaced internally means we need to provide plenty of shelter and plenty of core relief items like blankets, jerry cans, mattresses. So unfortunately, our supplies are running low. And that is why we recently appealed for more donations so that we can continue delivering our critical life-saving assistance. So as of now, to deal with all this displacement, we are really focusing on protecting the most vulnerable with life-saving shelter, food, water, and core relief items. So I mentioned earlier that some of the core relief items that we provide are blankets, mattresses, jerry cans, so that they can use these cans to go to the well to get water, and also food as well. So just to give you an idea of what your donations can provide, $67 could provide a sanitary kit to 5 displaced Afghan families in Iran. $98 could provide a kit of core relief items to an Afghan refugee family in Pakistan. And $580 could provide an emergency shelter kit to a displaced family in Afghanistan. So within a family, there's about 5 people. So your support will really be able to go a long way in terms of providing relief and support to these people. So here, I just wanted to conclude this presentation with this quote from Angelina Jolie. So Angelina Jolie, I think some of you might know her. She's a Hollywood actress, and she's also a UNHCR special envoy. So as a special envoy, she raises awareness about the refugee cause, and she herself, she makes personal donations to UNHCR as well. So many people think, that, oh, why do we spend so much money on these people? Why do we pay them, right? Like actually in reality, they are the ones who are giving us money. So, and we also, we get them to help us to raise more awareness about the cause. So here, this quote that we have, I think we all want justice and equality, a chance for a life with meaning. All of us would like to believe that
And I think your line broke. I can't hear you.
Hi, Gerald. I think Anne just meant to conclude the presentation and thank everyone for joining today.
Right.
Yeah, sorry. Thank you. Sorry, guys.
No
I'm
worries.
not sure what happened. Yeah. So I just wanted to leave you that quote from Angelina Jolie. Thank you so much. Sorry, that was a very quick overview of what UNHCR does. But I hope it's enough information for now, and I'm happy to take questions.
All right. So thank you. Thanks for the sharing. I think we have a question from Lele. She raised her hand.
Hi, Lala.
Can you hear me?
Yes.
First, I want to thank Mensa Singapore for hosting this wonderful event. And hello, and may I ask, because I've been working with the food bank in Taiwan for 7 years, and is there any chance I can discuss with you about the cooperations between the organizations? And also, I want to ask if we can exchange the email, and I want to ask, is there any chance I can work as a volunteer or another way to contribute to these events? Thank you.
Thank you so much, Lala. As I'm Lala, right? I hope I got
Yes.
that right. Lala.
Yes.
Nice to meet you, Lala. Thank you so much. As I mentioned earlier, that we are a partnership-focused agency. So we work very closely with partners, including non-profit organizations, and we do welcome as much support as possible. It's just that the support that we receive, right, they have to be items that that we need on the ground. So we are not able to accept items that we are not in need of on the ground. So in terms of collaboration opportunities, I'm sure we can explore. So happy to discuss further after this call. And I leave you there our email address. So feel free to reach out to us there.
Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else has any questions? I'm sorry, Gerald, I wanted to ask you, should they, if they're interested in supporting us, would they be going to the UNHCR landing page for the donations?
Right. So I will do a walkthrough on how to donate right after I think we take all the questions.
Okay, sure.
Yeah.
Got it.
So is there any other questions? All right. So I just leave an extra minute just to make sure. Oh, I think I see a question. Sequoia asked through the chat, how is UNHCR delivering aid and supplies to Afghans now that the political situation is unstable and dangerous?
Yes. So it is indeed dangerous right now in Afghanistan. Certain areas are more dangerous than others. So in the districts and the areas that there's increasing violence, UNHCR staff are actually hibernating. So we are just waiting for the situation to get better before we go out and deliver aid again. But in areas where it is not so dangerous, the team is actually on the ground delivering the aid. They are delivering the shelter kits, the core relief items. So they are continuing to do their work as much as possible. And also just to mention as well that the Taliban has also asked us to continue delivering the aid. This is very important for us because people must understand that we are a humanitarian agency. The work that we do is purely humanitarian, which means our goal is to make sure that we are able to provide relief to these most vulnerable communities. So we do have the Taliban telling us to continue doing our work. So we will continue to stay and deliver. This in no way means that we endorse the Taliban or agree with some of the way they are conducting their activities, but for us, we are solely focused on delivering aid. So if they are allowing us to do so, we will continue to do so.
I'd like to add, I think I saw a write-up. I think the majority of the refugees, I think a lot of them escape into nearby neighboring countries. And once they escape, I think they really need help once they, because they, like you said, left everything behind to leave to another country. And then that's when they have issues with jobs, shelter, food and water. Yeah, so I saw some of the work. It's amazing what UNHCR has achieved.
Yeah, thank you so much. And that is also why we are encouraging all these countries, especially the neighboring countries, to keep their borders open. So that if these Afghans need support and they need to find safety in those countries, they can do so. And UNHCR is actually at the borders, helping the governments to receive these refugees. Because when they come to the borders, we need to give them a refugee status, right? They need this refugee card to show that they are refugees. So we are helping the government conduct interviews with them. We want to make sure they're actual refugees. And then once everything goes through, then they get a refugee registration card. And with this card, they will be entitled to certain basic human rights. So thank you so much.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned earlier, we are not able to do this alone. We need the support of all our partners, including governments, non-governmental organizations, the private sector, as well as people like you.
Thank you. Yeah, so it's very interesting to
you.
learn. Yeah, any other questions that we have for UNHCR? Just want to wait a minute, see if there's any questions. If not, then I will head over to how to donate. Yeah, so it's very interesting, like the conflicts that's happening throughout the world and what's, what a lot of us are facing in Singapore. Very, very different.
Yeah, it's completely different. Sometimes I think we are in this little bubble of ours.
Yeah, Germany is not good enough. We want to travel to other places of the world. Yeah, okay,
Excuse me, maybe I have another question. I have one other question, if it's okay.
Sure.
Actually, I'm a bit worried about the source of the problems. So is it possible so the donations could be used to avoid it? Because I think, for example, in Afghanistan, Afghanistan became dangerous because the powerful countries delivered weapons there years ago to support certain political parties and now left the weapons behind. And I'm very worried that my country, Germany, is very much on the front line of selling weapons and providing weapons to those areas. So is this also a part where you could help if I donated, or is that something you're not involved in? I mean, avoiding those problems with weapons, or, for example, trying to get the weapons out of there.
Yeah, no, thank you so much for your question. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, we are a purely humanitarian organization, and our sole focus is to ensure that these relief items get to the communities that need them. Now, in terms of partnerships, especially when we work with the private sector, we have a full due diligence process that we have. So when it comes to certain companies that deal with things like tobacco, ammunition, we make sure we screen them carefully. And if they're involved in a lot of controversies, we are actually not going to partner with them. So we do have a due diligence process in place. So it's not like we just partner with everyone and anyone. If they are doing something that is, not in line with our values, then we do not partner with them. That's in a nutshell how we operate.
Thank you very much.
All right, so let's keep it to, I think, one last question. If we have any question, if not, I think we can call it. Oh, we have
Sorry,
one.
I do have a question.
Yeah.
What is the best way for a NGO and individuals in the tech industry to help support your effort?
Okay, so in general, the best way to support is to actually to provide funding, because that really helps us to purchase items and deliver relief items on the ground. Apart from that, tech support can also support us by providing the expertise. Just to give you an example, we have a partnership in terms of like expertise sharing, right? We have a partnership with UPS, the logistics company UPS. So apart from helping us ship items for free, they also help us with the way we manage our logistics, because they are the logistics experts, right? And we are humanitarian experts, and we do a lot with delivering emergency aid, but we are not logistics experts. So with the help of UPS, we are able to streamline our logistics management, and we are able to conduct our work more effectively. So that's an example of how we work with the private sector. So now that tech is at the forefront of everything, especially with COVID, I think tech companies could share their expertise with us to help us improve our operation.
Okay, great.
Yeah, so feel free to reach out to us later after this call if you have anything you want to explore as well.
Yeah, sure. Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you everyone for asking such intense questions. I think these are very practical and real questions that I never would have thought of myself. And let me just share the screen real quick on how everyone can donate. So can everyone see my screen?
Yep, we can see.
Yeah,
Yes.
so this is the donate.unhcr.org website. So I think Malik and I, we have been struggling, so we do need tech support to set up the donation website. So that aside, right now I think the easiest way is to donate directly to UNHCR's website. After donating, do take a screenshot so that Mensa will know like who has donated. So because we kind of do have our own target, we hope to be able to achieve $5,000 as a stretch target for UNHCR. So in my own effort, I'm going to try to talk about it on my YouTube channel, raise awareness and hopefully some funds. So over here, this is one-off, or you can do a monthly donation. So in my case, I will do a one-off. Then you want to click donate. Then they will ask you for your details, just write your details. So all this will be in the recording. So if you need, you can just replay this video on our Mensa Facebook to see how it's done. Yeah, so then donate. So that's how we go to the donation. Then card details and then donate. Yeah, so I'm gonna personally donate.
Thanks, Gerald. Do you mind
Yeah.
if you scroll down to you can see how much each dollar costs? So for example, if you see like $700 is for a kit of core relief items, $585 is for an emergency shelter kit, and $98 is for also another kit of core relief items. So this is just how to show how much a dollar will stretch when you donate to UNHCR now.
Awesome. Yeah, so yeah, I actually want to make a donation right now, but the worry I have is I don't want to show my credit card number in this call.
I was waiting for that.
Yeah, actually I wanted to just donate. And I think Mensa Singapore has been really helpful and generous in the sense that for every $50 raise, right, Mensa will provide special Mensa Singapore notebook to thank the donors for supporting this cause. And on my end, I would also like to support if we for every $1,000, sorry, $100, every $1,000 we raise, I will donate an additional $10. So that's to the best of my abilities. Hopefully we can hit the target of 5,000 and really make an impact. Yeah, so that's all I have for today's session. Thank you everyone for joining. It's been really nice to have you all. How do I stop the sharing? Okay, so this is the stop share button. Yeah, so that's what we have for tonight. So thank you everyone for joining. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to us from Mensa Singapore and we can give you Anne or Malik's contact. Or I think in the earlier part, they did mention like the email, right? The partnerships email. So you can do right in there as well. So without further ado, please have a wonderful evening and support.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Gerald.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody.
Really appreciate your support, everyone. Thank you.
Yeah.
Gerald, you want to stay online for a bit?
Yeah, sure. Just gonna make the donation.
I was waiting for your credit card details so that I can make more donations on your behalf.
Oh, you got me there.
No, thank you so much, Gerald. Like really, if only more organizations and individuals like you would come forward to do this. It's really
Yeah.
great. Yeah.
1 second. I'm just gonna see share the post donation page. Let me just confirm. I'm not sure whether this will block. Yeah, so this is the donation page. They will ask for the card details. Yeah, so once we settle the card details, then we should see the last page that it confirms the amount. Just take a screenshot, then send it to Mensa email. I will provide the link of the email in the description below, so do check it out so that you can receive your free notebook, just for those of you that are supporting. Okay, so I think I'm just going to stop the share now. Because, yeah, so then over here, just send this to us and I think we'll get in touch with you. Okay, all right, let me just stop the recording as well.
Sorry, I just got back from work. I've been late. It's me, Adele.